One guy, one school, no powers, but a story worth telling. Ready? In a world where superheroes exist, Will struggles to discover his powers despite being the son of two famous heroes, the Commander, Steve, and Jetstream, Josie. On his first day at Sky High, a floating school for superhero kids, Will tries to impress his dad by faking super strength but fails. Steve, proud but oblivious, believes Will will follow in his heroic footsteps. Will's best friend Layla, who controls plants, joins him to walk to school. Steve and Josie are called away to fight a giant robot, leaving Will and Layla to head to school alone. On the bus, driven by Ron, Will's status as the son of superheroes gets him unwanted attention. Despite Ron offering special seats, Will sits with his friend Zach, who reveals his powers. Will grows more anxious about his inability to show his own. Ron then launches the bus into the sky, flying the kids to Sky High. At Sky High, bullies Lash and Speed target newcomers until Gwen, the confident student body president, intervenes. Will is instantly smitten with Gwen, who warmly welcomes them and leads a tour of the school. They end up in the auditorium, where Principal Powers greets the students and announces the upcoming power placement test to classify them as heroes or sidekicks. Coach Boomer begins testing powers, starting with Larry, who transforms into stone and is placed as a hero. Zach attempts to impress by glowing in the dark but is labeled a sidekick, as are Ethan, who turns into slime, and Magenta, who can only shapeshift into a guinea pig. Layla refuses to use her powers, arguing that a person's worth isn't defined by their abilities, earning her a spot as a sidekick. During lunch, Zach grumbles about his placement, and Will notices Warren Peace glaring at him. Layla explains Warren's grudge. The Commander once imprisoned his villainous father. Will later runs into Gwen, who invites him to join the homecoming committee, leaving him flustered but eager. Will then finds Lash and Speed bullying Ethan. Assuming Will is a hero, they try to recruit him, but Will brushes them off without standing up for Ethan. Finally, Will faces the placement test. Whispering to Boomer that he has no powers, the coach tests him by dropping a car, nearly crushing him, and pushing him off the stage, hoping to see him fly. Will hits the ground hard. Realizing Will truly has no powers, Boomer humiliates him, announcing that the son of legendary heroes is nothing but a sidekick. Later, Will visits the school clinic after Boomer's harsh test. The nurse assures him he's fine, but warns some kids, like Ron, never develop powers. Disheartened, Will decides to tell his dad. Steve, excited to hear about Will's first day, takes him to his secret superhero bunker filled with trophies. Showing off the pacifier, a device from Royal Pain, Steve proudly shares how that battle led him to meet Josie. He even reserves a spot for Will's future trophies, confident they'll fight together someday. When Steve asks what's wrong, Will loses his nerve and says nothing. Unbeknownst to them, a hidden device from the giant robot activates, allowing Steve's enemies to spy on him. That night, Will sits on the roof, reflecting on the day. Layla joins him, encouraging him to tell his parents the truth. Will admits he couldn't after seeing his father's pride. Layla reassures him that powers don't define him, dismissing the test as flawed. The next day, Will attends hero support class with his friends, where Mr. Boy teaches that sidekicks are just as important as heroes. He proudly mentions he was once the Commander and Jetstream's sidekick, leaving Will surprised but noticing Mr. Boy's quiet disappointment. After school, Steve meets Will's friends but is unimpressed by their powers. When Will admits they're all sidekicks, and that he is too, Steve grows furious, assuming Boomer was to blame. Will insists it's no one's fault and that he has no powers. Shocked, Steve suggests Will might still be a late bloomer. Later, Layla smiles proudly as Will rejoins his friends, relieved to have told his dad the truth. The next day, Will sees Lash and Speed bullying Ron and tries to intervene but is mocked for being a sidekick. During lunch, Lash trips Will, causing him to spill food on Warren. Enraged, Warren attacks, hurling fireballs at Will. Though Will apologizes, Warren doesn't listen. Just as Warren closes in, Will suddenly lifts the table Warren is standing on and throws it aside. To everyone's shock, Will has super strength. Ecstatic, he fights back, dodging Warren's attacks. As Warren prepares another fiery blast, Layla tosses Will a fire extinguisher and he puts out the flames, ending the fight. Steve, thrilled that Will shares his super strength, rewards him with an Xbox but tells him to keep it secret from Josie, pretending he scolded him. Meanwhile, the villains monitoring through the robot's device continue observing Will's new powers. And at school, Will's friends celebrate his success, with Ethan joking that he's made sidekick history. Mr. Boy informs Will he's being promoted to hero classes. Although reluctant to leave his friends, they encourage him to go. Will moves to Mr. Medulla's hero class, where he's paired with Gwen, the teaching assistant. Struggling with the assignment, Will receives help from Gwen, who uses her technopathic powers. Mr. Medulla scolds them, warning Will to learn independently. After class, Gwen explains her ability to control technology and offers to tutor Will privately. Was excited, he agrees to meet her at his house the next day. At lunch, Gwen invites Will to sit with her group, but Penny clones herself to occupy all the seats, forcing Will's friends to sit elsewhere. Disappointed, Will later apologizes to Layla and invites her to dinner at a Chinese restaurant that night, surprising her since he dislikes Chinese food. She happily accepts. Later, Will intervenes when Lash and Speed bully Ethan and Zach. Encouraged by his friends, Will agrees to play Save the Citizen, betting the bullies will stop if he wins. Lash and Speed dominate the game early, using their powers to overwhelm Will and Warren. Will ties Lash to a pole but notices Warren struggling. Prioritizing his teammate, Will saves Warren and throws him to rescue the citizen just in time, winning the game. Warren silently walks away without acknowledging Will. That evening, Steve congratulates Will on his victory. In the kitchen, Josie and Gwen wait, and Gwen reschedules their tutoring session. Steve and Josie, impressed by Gwen's skills, invite her to dinner. During the meal, Gwen shares that her mother died when she was young, and her father is no longer active as a hero. She invites Steve and Josie to the homecoming party to accept the Heroes of the Year award, and they proudly agree. Later, Steve and Josie show Gwen and Will their old Sky High yearbook, reminiscing about their school days. Josie points out Sue, a student who disappeared amid rumors of recruiting villains. Steve jokingly recalls Warren's father, who once threatened revenge. That night, after tutoring, Will walks Gwen home, and she reveals she doesn't have a homecoming date, hinting she's been waiting for him to ask. Thrilled, Will agrees. Her father gives Will a stern warning not to hurt her, leaving him uneasy. Meanwhile, Layla waits alone for hours at the Chinese restaurant, hoping Will will show up. Warren, working there, joins her and learns Layla has feelings for Will. Though she denies it at first, she admits she likes him but feels inferior to Gwen. Warren encourages her to tell Will the truth. The next morning, Will meets Layla outside, oblivious to their missed dinner. Hurt, Layla tries to talk, but Will cuts her off, excitedly sharing that Gwen is his homecoming date. Shocked, Layla pretends to be happy and claims she's going with Warren. Will is annoyed she chose his enemy, while Layla reminds him about missing their dinner and walks away. In the cafeteria, Layla explains her plan to Warren, hoping to make Will jealous. Warren reluctantly agrees to play along, while Ethan, Zach, and Magenta join in, lightening the mood. Seeing Will and Gwen holding hands later, Layla runs to Warren, intensifying her act to provoke Will. That night, during tutoring, Gwen gets a call about a forgotten fog machine for homecoming and asks Will to host a quick committee meeting at his house. Will hesitates but agrees after Gwen acts disappointed. To his dismay, Gwen turns it into a party. Feeling uneasy, Will follows Gwen's request for a private space and breaks his father's rule by taking her to the secret superhero bunker. Layla arrives, curious about the party, and sees Gwen and Will leaving the bunker. Gwen confronts Layla, cruelly saying Will doesn't like her, which is why he's taking someone else to the dance. Furious, Layla tells Gwen to let Will know never to speak to her again. Storming out, Layla ignores Will, who's confused and concerned. When Will confronts Gwen, she admits she told Layla to stay away. Angry, Will declares he's done with her and ends the party, sending everyone home. His parents return to the chaos, furious at Will for hosting a party. Josie threatens to ban him from homecoming, but Will insists he's not going anyway, shocking Steve, who had high hopes for Gwen. Later, Will leaves a message for Layla, asking to meet him at the Chinese restaurant, but she doesn't respond. Will waits for Layla at the Chinese restaurant, but she never arrives. Just as he's leaving, he runs into Warren. When Will asks about Layla, Warren sarcastically denies caring, but eventually admits the truth. Layla was only pretending to go to homecoming with him to make Will jealous. Warren reveals that Layla likes Will, though he's unsure if she still feels that way. The next day, Will refuses to attend homecoming despite Josie's efforts to change his mind. Alone in the superhero bunker, he flips through his parents' yearbook and notices Sue looks identical to Gwen. Digging further, he sees Sue holding the pacifier, Royal Pain's device, and realizes Gwen must have stolen it during the party. Determined to stop her, Will calls Ron for a ride to Sky High. At the homecoming party, Gwen presents the Hero of the Year award to Will's parents. To their shock, she reveals herself as Royal Pain and dons her villain costume. Her sidekick, Stitches, hands her the pacifier, which Gwen uses to turn Steve, Josie, and the other heroes into babies. Will's friends escape through the vents just as Will arrives. They confirm Gwen's identity before Penny, Lash, and Speed attack. Warren tells Will to stop Gwen while he and the others handle her minions. Gwen explains her plan to use the pacifier to create an army of villainous babies who will rule the world, revealing she is Royal Pain, not her mother. Penny reveals that Gwen sabotaged the school's anti-gravity device, causing Sky High to fall toward Earth. Layla and the others locate the problem, an electrical wire that needs to be severed. Since only a small creature can fit through, Magenta transforms into a guinea pig and races against time to chew through the wire before disaster strikes. While Stitches attempts to escape with a bus full of baby heroes, Ron stops him and takes control of the situation. Meanwhile, Will fights Gwen but gets distracted when Layla and Warren arrive. Seizing the chance, Gwen punches Will out of the school. Mid-fall, Will discovers he can fly and soars back to face Gwen. He subdues her, but Gwen retaliates by disconnecting the anti-gravity device, causing the school to plummet toward Earth. Will flies beneath the school, using his super strength to slow its fall just as Magenta finishes chewing through the wire. With the crisis averted, Will lifts the school back into the sky, saving everyone. Afterward, Will and his friends help return the baby heroes to normal. Apologizing to his parents for letting Gwen steal the pacifier, Will is reassured by Steve and Josie that saving the day was what truly mattered. Mr. Boy awards Steve and Josie the Hero of the Year trophy, but they pass it to the Sidekicks, recognizing them as the real heroes. Principal Powers locks up Gwen, Stitches, and their team, preparing them for jail. At the homecoming party, Mr. Medulla proudly announces the pacifier has been destroyed for good. Everyone celebrates, dancing and enjoying the night. The story ends with Will finding his place as both a hero and a loyal friend, surrounded by those who believed in him all along.